Hmm.
Welcome back to the Coruscant Nights podcast. We're very happy to have you here again for another week of Star Wars content. My name is Cooper. Alongside me, as always, is Mark
Hello there.
and Jack.
Hello, everyone.
Guys, it's great to have you back again. This week we're doing a season review of Ahsoka. We've spoken about it for the last couple weeks, uh, maybe last 2 months, but we are gonna just do a summary review for those who maybe didn't watch all of our reviews or didn't know what we thought of it. This is just kind of an overall what we thought of the season, what we're hoping will come next season. We kind of discussed that a little bit last week, but anyway. Um just a reminder, socials, Instagram, TikTok, they're the main ones we're on. We post pretty much every week about updates to the podcast, what we're doing. And Patreon as well. Go support us on Patreon. The link is via Instagram bio, and you'll get extra content there. Thanks to Ben and Nikita as always. And last thing I think on my list in my head is go check out Pop Cultured. That's our brand new channel. We're going to start uploading content very shortly, but go ahead and subscribe. There'll be a link in the description, and you'll be able to follow our new channel where we talk all things except Star Wars, which will be Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Transformers, TV shows. I'm rambling on, but basically, you get the gist. A lot of things.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Did I miss anything?
Yes, I do have something to mention.
Ooh.
Today is Cooper's birthday. So
Oh,
from
Well,
the
hey,
Coruscant
hey.
Night team, we want to say happy birthday to Cooper, and we hope he enjoys spending his birthday doing this recording.
thank
Yeah.
you. I really was hoping we didn't have to discuss that, but you know what? I appreciate it. Thank you
Did it
for
for me, I have to
that.
do it for you.
Did we?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. And Mark, did you want to mention the YouTube
Oh
thing?
yes, I did actually. That's another thing. We made a YouTube poll, and I found the results pretty interesting. I'm sure the other guys did as well. We asked what you guys' favorite duo was in the show, and correct me if I get them wrong, Cooper, but I think it was Ahsoka and Sabine.
Yep.
Was it Thrawn and Morgan was second?
Yep.
Hmm.
Balin and Shin, and I think last was Sabine and Ezra.
Yep.
Hmm.
Well, what a one-sided result. Almost everybody voted for Balin and Shin. And I mean, I did as well. I've got to 100% agree with them. But I'm honestly surprised because out of all the characters in the show, I didn't think this would be such an overwhelming result that everyone thinks this is their favorite duo of the show.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I was thinking that.
I think it's because they just had the best chemistry with each other, being new
Mm.
characters. I think there was more intrigue and excitement around them, almost more than characters we've already seen kind of in other projects. So
Mm,
I think it's unanimously we want more of them, hopefully in some way, shape, or form. Obviously with real life circumstances. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mm.
Um, all right, so we're doing a season review today. We'll go around the room and we'll discuss overall what we thought positively, negatively, maybe some iffy sort of scenarios, and then we'll discuss our favorite characters and favorite episodes and an overall ranking because we got to do that.
Mm.
We've had a bit of a chat before. They want me to go first, even though I feel like I've already been talking for so long. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Okay, I've got a couple things. I know you guys are going to talk about a few of these things, so I'll only touch on them because I want you guys to chat as well. So I think round of applause has got to go to Kevin Kiner for the music. It was
Mhm.
just phenomenal. It's probably not my favorite. I still think Andor is still my favorite score of the whole live action shows, but
Mm.
definitely Kevin Kiner coming off Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, just it translated so well
Oh yeah.
into live action. And I know you guys will talk about that, so I'll leave
Mm.
that for you guys. But definitely massive positive for me. Um, Another positive, Ezra. I know he was introduced in episode 6, and it seems way too late in the season to do that. But Aman Esfandi absolutely nailed it, and I've got such high praise for him for his portrayal. Just I think everyone's in agreement that he pretty much nailed Ezra. I don't think there's
Mm.
any arguments, and that's like not just us, that's across the board, like in the whole world. So yeah, Ezra, great positive. I keep looking to my left because I got a list here. You guys are gonna hate me for this one. I thought Sabine was a great character. I thought her story was well-rounded.
Why do you think we're gonna hate you for that? I agree with that.
Oh, okay, good. I know Jack's just been a bit critical of her in
Yeah,
recent
I
times,
don't
but
think I've said throughout the season that I don't like Sabine.
okay, all right. I don't know. Maybe when Jack says that, I think I don't know. That's both of you. I don't know. Anyway, I really love Sabine. I think Natasha Liu Bodizo did a great job, and yeah, I mean, I can't say much more. She
Mm,
looks great. She
mm,
had great mannerisms,
mm,
expressions. The voice was a bit off, but I feel like that's almost like a maturity in the sense of going from I don't know this active rebel, not leader, but active rebel worker to kind
okay.
of quieting down on Lothal. But that's just my opinion. And the last thing I want to mention is that I think that this series, while I'll touch on the story a bit later, but I thought that it delivered probably some of the best individual moments ever in Star Wars. And I'm thinking about Anakin. I know you guys are going to talk about him in a bit, but I just think the way he was done and delivered in this series was so special, and you just don't get moments like that in Star Wars anymore. So I think just yeah, they when Dave Filoni went, yeah, I'm gonna make the audience cry with happiness. He really did it. He really went for it. So those were
Yeah.
my general positives, and I'll pass it around to Mark, and we'll get on to
Yep,
the
I'll
other
do
stuff
my
later.
general positives, and as they are general. So I'll just go through my list that I wrote. So basically, I thought it was great that we got to see most of the rebels again. I mean, actually, it's kind of surprising, really, that we didn't see Zeb. I think,
Yeah. I thought
but
after they introduced him in Mando season
yeah, I
3, I
thought he would
thought
at least appear
surely,
once,
yeah, like
Mm.
even with Captain Tava.
why wouldn't he appear in the I mean, it's not really called the Rebel show, but it is, you know,
Might as
half
well
and half
be.
Rebel show.
I think it's
Yeah.
because with the future seasons in mind, I think they didn't want to overcrowd too much. And if they gave him like a one, like we've seen him before now in live action, he got a brief mention. He's in the known galaxy, so I guess that eventually he'll be more of an impact, maybe even with Callus.
Mm, mm,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Building on that point, seeing more of Thrawn, who is one of my probably favorite Star Wars characters. I thought that was just a positive in general that we got to see Thrawn again. I thought the action scenes were done pretty well, pretty much in most respects they were done well. I really enjoyed that the acrobatic sort of things, and it felt to me, I can see Jack is disagreeing by his face, but I thought the lightsaber fights were pretty almost prequel like. Like there was a lot of fighting. Like it's not just hitting lightsabers. Like if you compare Obi-Wan and Vader from, I'm gonna say episode 4, but maybe even in the Obi-Wan show. I can't really remember. But yeah, I just thought, even Clone Wars, like there's a lot of hopping around and using cool moves.
So I don't disagree with you, but I also disagree with you because I feel like it was more based around the original trilogy lightsaber
I
fights.
think it's mixed.
I
See, I
mean,
didn't get that.
Nah,
you look at Balin and Ahsoka. They yes, Ahsoka fights quick, but Balin's a very slow, kind of strong,
Well,
striking
I
character.
agree with that about Balin, but that's just one character, which is why I
nah,
don't think it's all of them.
see, I think, yeah, I agree with Cooper on this one, surprisingly. I think that this show did not try to have like a resemblance between any of like the stuff we've seen before. I think it's trying to make a mixture of blending the
Mm,
prequels
yeah,
with original trilogy
that's
because
true.
it didn't have nowhere near the speed of the prequels and not a lot of flashy stuff. I thought Ahsoka didn't actually do a lot of Ahsoka things, like I like to say, because she did like with Morgan fight at the end, I think she did her most like Ahsoka movement stuff. However, that's because Morgan's obviously a much quicker fighter than Balin and stuff. But I thought it was a lot more OT, Empire Strikes Back, kind of Luke versus Vader, long swings. Didn't always look the best. However, you could still tell that they were good with it, kind of thing. You know,
Mm,
Yeah,
that's my
interesting.
vibe.
I think in this case we'll have to agree to disagree.
yeah.
Yep.
To continue, I thought pretty much all of the acting throughout the show was great. As always, rest in peace, but props to Ray Stevenson because I think he did some of the best acting in the whole show. And also Lars Mikkelsen, I felt like did well as Thrawn, which I
Mm.
know some people disagree with.
Mm.
You know what's crazy about Ray Stevenson's acting? Like
So
we didn't it's so very nonchalant. It's very um like stone faced. He
yeah,
doesn't really do a lot, but there's just you
a
can
lot
almost
behind that.
I
yeah,
think
there's
it's
a
the
lot
fact that it
behind it.
makes it like mysterious.
I think he's a more of an actor with his actual body language rather than
Yes.
how he delivers the lines. Because
Yep.
the lines alone are kind of just generic and kind of like basic. But when you look at him, I know people are going to probably meme a lot about when he's like looking over the cliff, like, oh, here's another shot of Balin looking over a cliff. But there's always something behind his eyes or
Mm.
something that he's doing that, like a little look to the right or something that gives you a bit of, what's he doing here? I think that gives more of his acting credit, you
And I
know.
feel like I
Yeah.
don't know if this is just me or not, but I feel like he has a very powerful voice for the way he brings across his
Oh
lines.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that made it just really intense
Mm.
Yeah.
and awesome to watch.
Hmm.
Yep. Another positive is I thought Anakin was great as a cameo because we've had a lot of cameos in shows recently, not in Ahsoka specifically, but in Star Wars in general. And I feel like this one was done a lot better because
Mm.
I feel like a lot of the others were just kind of put in for the sake of it.
Qui-Gon.
Yeah, that's my example. That's what I
Wait,
was thinking of.
do you consider Anakin a cameo in this series?
I
I
do for
would
the
say
last
so.
one,
He
not
played
for.
more of a role, but I'd still say he was a cameo.
Really?
I I would say he is a. It was. I say no. Okay, I think
He
this is where
definitely
we're getting.
started as a cameo when he was introduced, and he
Well,
had more of a role after that.
here's my thing. I think
Hmm.
we have to use language here. I think this is about language. So for in Obi-Wan with Qui-Gon, now that is fan service cameo.
That's
This
what I'm
cameo here was
saying.
a storyline cameo, but
Yep.
also like a mixture of fans of because everyone loves him, but it had an actual storyline beat
Yeah.
for the character development of Ahsoka. When Qui-Gon was meant to probably have a maybe if they'll think about Obi-Wan season 2 or something, because he's the one that's meant to teach Obi-Wan about like how to become a force ghost and all this. But in the end, it was just him saying, hello.
Mm.
Hmm.
I agree.
That-
I like that you really specified that because I feel like that helps my point a bit
yeah. I get what
I
because
you
you
mean.
basically said what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. I just thought when I think a cameo, I think, oh yeah, C3PO, that's a cameo. Shows up for like a minute and then doesn't
It's,
really
it's,
contribute to the story. It's just there. But I do like your point about it serving the story rather than just being fan
Mm.
service. So I guess
it
it's
didn't
just
serve the story in like this much aspect. Like anyone could have done that role to back up her in that bit, and it didn't have to be C3PO, but they
yeah.
wanted to obviously,
Yeah.
fan
Yeah,
something,
okay. Yep. I guess it's
Yep.
to everyone's own opinion about
of
what
course.
cameo is.
Yeah.
And I
Fan
think I'll continue with my
Yeah.
last one that I've written down is that as a positive, Balin and Shin was some of the best parts of the whole season in general. And I love that they were kind of like a third party, even though they were working with the villains. They were still a bit murky and grey area. Like they've got their own motivations,
Hmm.
Mm.
which unfortunately we didn't really find out. But I think that's one of the things that really kept me invested.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. 100%. Yeah, that's a good list there, Mark.
Thank you. Off to Jack.
All right. So as always, I have no notes whatsoever. However, my brain will help me in this conversation. So overall, I think the show did a. This is probably the main thing I can give praise to Ahsoka. It did a great job reintroducing these characters into live action. A lot of them that we haven't seen before. I think it also had a lot of the vibes. I think this show had one of the best vibes. Like it felt like we're watching kind of like original trilogy blend with Revenge. But I
And
know
with
Cooper's
Clone
probably,
Wars.
yeah, and with Clone Wars, I think Cooper's going to disagree with me here. I have, so if you guys have been watching every episode, I've been very up and down a lot about the show. However, after all the season's done, my overall opinion of it is very average. So when I say like it has a good vibes, I mean like it felt like I was watching something like I've seen before from Star Wars, but not like generically done in terms of like
Mm.
aura of it. However,
Yeah.
the plot I'll talk about later. I wasn't a fan of it or anything. I thought the portrayal of Balin and Shin was really good for how they wanted to write their characters and how they were performed. Um, in terms of the other characters, look, when I'm thinking about it, I can't really say the other characters were portrayed that well aside from like Anakin. I thought he was obviously I thought he was improved upon from the prequels because I think the prequels kind of, especially episode 2, I think this one reinforced how good of an actor he can be for like the mentoring role that we see
Mm.
in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't know, man.
Damn.
Like, yeah, it's hard for me because, like Cooper said, we have like positives and negatives and iffies. A lot of the stuff I have with this are iffies. They're not
Mm.
like overly negative. I just can't give them overly praise because I think this show is very iffy. You know what I mean? Because especially going into it, they mentioned it was a limited series. And imagine if they didn't have it. Imagine if they don't do another season to this, but like they continue it with only the movie.
Yeah.
Oh man, this show would be even worse for me because
Yeah.
they really didn't, from start to finish, they didn't really like answer much. It didn't really like dive into that much like of stuff we never seen before. It was a lot of just what we assumed was going to happen happened, and I think that's where my issues lie. So with positives, I think I've got to say the storyline with Balin and Shin and the Mortis obviously arc that they are going to well Balin's obviously something to do with the gods and stuff. So I think that's a positive. I thought the visuals in this show had very strong visuals, especially with the Chimera and stuff on Peridia. Um, Music, obviously, what Cooper said, unreal. I have listened to a lot of the soundtrack over and over again. Just, I'm pretty sad though that Balin doesn't have his own theme. It's
Same,
just
yeah.
a lot of it's his theme within other parts of the music. It's not just like how if you look at Spotify, guys, you can see that Thrawn has Thrawn theme, but there's always like Balin. Like one of the things is like Balin's plan or something. I'm like, there's never like Balin's theme or something. I'm like, can't you just have
Mm.
one soundtrack of his theme? Like you got Ahsoka's one, you got Thrawn's one. Where's Balin's? But anyway, I thought the lightsaber battles were good. I wouldn't say that they are as good as what we've seen from previous movies like the prequels. However, though, they're a lot better than Obi-Wan Kenobi fight, um, even sequel Disney fights. I think they're a
Yeah.
lot better. However, actually, I can't say that because that's a negative. So yeah, I thought the lightsabers fights were good, but that's the extent of the action I'm going to say for that one. I thought the CGI was actually good for the most part. I thought it actually did a really good blend of kind of on location filming with CGI. I thought like it looked a lot less Mandalorian-esque with you could tell that it was kind of shot on a stage. And I know like some of the CGI of like Ahsoka falling off was really bad. However, I thought it just looked generally better than a lot of the other stuff we've had aside from like excluding Andor because Andor was honestly just peak everything.
Mm.
But yeah, I think overall, I think there was a lot of mini positives to take out. But where I'm standing is a lot of the things I want to talk about are kind of in between. So I'm going to talk about them in the negatives and explain why they're not overly positive. So like, yeah, I know the list might seem a lot less positive from what you guys have said, but it is reinforcing a lot of what you said, minus like some stuff with characters that Cooper mentioned a lot more with Sabine and stuff, and which I want to talk about as an iffy negative. So
Mm.
I'll pass it back around to Cooper so we can get into the good stuff, in my opinion, of the negatives and the iffies.
Well, first of all, I'll just make a comment. I liked your note about the story, and that's something I'm going to touch on. I'll touch on it now. I completely agree with you. The fact that this is kind of a story we assumed would happen anyway. We didn't really need to see it play
Yeah.
out. I guess the only benefit that came from it was the world between world stuff. Even that was like 1 or 2 episodes. So
Yeah,
everything else you
literally
just
like
could have
we
assumed would happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and that's
It was
So
a bit predictable, wasn't it?
was
yeah.
very predictable. I said this last week and I said it in my review. I reckon I could write this show better and also, make it more interesting. And we've touched on it week after week. You literally need to just combine a couple of episodes and it would just make it flow so much better. And look,
You're
I don't
taking all
consider
my negative points.
Oh, sorry.
I think we're
Look,
all unanimously in agreement from
yeah,
what Cooper's saying right now is kind of, I think, what on the same line as what Mark and I are thinking about the plot too.
yeah,
So
Mm.
backing him up even
yeah,
with his
exactly. Um, look, I don't consider myself a very, I'm gonna say professional writer, and I'm not, but I write a lot of projects. I kind of I like to think I know what's expected of these sort of stories. So I just to see it as a whole thing now rather than episode by episode, it's like, yeah, it wasn't great, but that's
It
that's
wasn't done,
just
it wasn't done poorly though. It was just basic. Like
yes,
Mhm.
what it did was it was really good. Like
It
it
was a
showed
good
us.
show. It was a good story.
See, I wouldn't say it's a good story. I would say from the vision of what Dave had for the most basic plot ever, it was done perfectly. I
yes,
don't think it was done badly. I think they just could have had a more interesting, engaging script that didn't follow, like that didn't. This was like the playing it safe series almost. Like they had so many opportunities to like go absolutely crazy with it and throw on and like what's on these kind of planets, like creatures wise. We saw like the hounds, the howlers, and the noti. And that was literally like all the kind of new stuff. Like it wasn't it didn't go, it didn't what's it called? It didn't shock us that much.
expand
Yeah, it
the
didn't
oh yeah
expand our belief and understanding of what we're going to see. We literally just saw like what we could have seen anywhere else.
yeah
Like, and that's where I think the show suffered greatly from, and I think that's why it's a lot more of a everyone's a bit on
yeah.
it. So yeah,
I'll make one more note on the story because it's just come to my head. I'm still not 100% on board with the whole galaxy thing because I feel like it would have been more like sorry, separate galaxy would have been more worthwhile if they actually had something unique and different on the others on in the other galaxy.
yeah. See, this is when I go into my bits, there's a lot of iffies. I think I love the new galaxy though. I didn't mention this because it makes sense for like not. So if there was no sequel trilogy and this was like the only extension we had, then it wouldn't have made sense to go for a new galaxy. But you couldn't have Thrawn be somewhere in our galaxy for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Not, you know what I mean? Because then he would have just begun his plan instantly.
Yeah.
I think that was the only logical reasoning to have him kind of away. And yeah, go.
Well, I first, Mark, have you finished Jedi Survivor yet?
No.
Can you close your ears while I say this, please?
All right.
Okay. Are they closed?
Yep.
Great. Okay. I still think that something similar to the Kobo Abyss would be way better because I feel like that's way more logical and I don't know.
But I think you're a big fan of the Jedi Fallen Order Survivor
No,
game.
but I just generally think it's a better because I feel like
I think that's almost more crazy than like that's more almost unrealistic than a whole new
yeah, but
galaxy.
that suits this show. Than another galaxy. I mean, we're just getting the same stuff.
It's far from yeah, but we only got one planet from it. Mark can come back now.
Yeah, Mark, you can come back.
Wait,
We'll say. Hang on. I'll.
shoot him a message. Shoot
Oh,
him a
he's
message.
back. He's back.
He's back. He's back. I think the issue is that with the new galaxy they gave us one planet and no other context around it. I think that's why you're a bit iffy on it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We didn't actually get to explore it, but I think that is almost good because then we, for example, do we know for a fact if the what's the show called? The one with Skeleton Crew. Is this
Oh
based
yeah.
in the new galaxy?
Don't know.
Does
Don't
that
know.
mean they might be the ones to save Ahsoka and them on the thing if they're
Oh, that'd be
exploring?
cool.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, maybe that will be the more show that gives us all the weird aspects of a new, whole galaxy. And I think the motto of far, far away, in a galaxy far, far, I think that almost works, you know what I mean, in terms of like, because galaxies, I know you say they're massive and stuff, but I feel like you almost
They
can't
are. They're very massive.
you can't restrict yourself to one galaxy. I feel like with so much, you know what I mean? Everything happened. This is why timelines and chronological stuff almost ruins, I think, some projects because you can't, you're restricted, right? If you're in the main galaxy and have all this Thrawn threat, unless they're gonna say like after this battle now, they're gonna like the remnants of Thrawn's allegiance or whatever are all gonna be the start of the First Order. Like it would almost make more sense if the First Order was in a whole nother galaxy and then they came in because like they just come out of nowhere. Like it's almost like that's why I'm saying like when you have the same only one galaxy, they keep just saying, "Oh yeah, these people are here. Oh yeah, these planets were always here. We just never talked about it. Oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like, how do you hide such a great threat like that in the known galaxy? You know what I mean? Unless you just keep expanding in the far reaches. And I feel like that's almost lazier than saying, "Well, you have to. There's some massive machine that you have to get to a whole new galaxy where this empire has been lying kind of dormant, kind of thing." You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair
I think
point.
that's why I'm a bit more positive on that
Okay.
part of it. But
Well,
yeah.
you definitely come around because I remember when we spoke after episode 6 came out and it said the title was Far, Far Away. You hated that
Oh, no,
idea.
I don't know because I wanted the title to be like, like not
Ah,
punny.
right. Okay.
I'm saying like before every movie we get in a long time ago, like I'm trying to say, like I don't think the galaxy is a far outlandish kind of idea theory. I think it's always been kind
Okay.
of almost
All
a
right.
little bit in my, but
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent we did.
Well, a little bit. I will make my last iffies quick. I'll just say Morgan as a character, I think, is the definition of wasted potential because I'm not going to repeat myself like a lot from last week, but essentially, I just didn't like that she got all her character development in the last episode and then was killed like 20 minutes later. So
Yep.
I just didn't like that.
I'll be touching on Morgan later.
Yeah, good. And my last iffy is Thrawn because that last episode just kind of ruined him for me. He didn't feel in control. He didn't feel powerful. He didn't feel knowledgeable. He just was, I don't know, felt
Lazy.
like any other sort of
Could we put
Imperial
this down
general.
to the fact that he was against Ahsoka and he felt like he was basically up against
Oh,
Anakin?
Mark, I'm gonna roast you. He was Ahsoka barely did anything against Thrawn. That's what I'm saying.
She no, she barely did anything, but he might have been scared of what she could do.
No, but that's the whole
Mm,
point of Thrawn. He's not some random imp. He's meant to be like,
Yeah,
you know what I
but
mean?
he's not because he knows that Vader slash Anakin is such a threat that he has
Oh
a
man.
strong feeling that Ahsoka will be.
Oh man. Oh brother. Nah, I'm gonna.
What?
Okay,
How is
okay.
that such an outlandish thing to say?
That's just like you're almost like trying to what's it called? Do the Thrawn. Oh, I'm excusing this. However, this is still a W. Like it's like you're trying to like explain why he's making mistakes and stuff like what Disney like to do with Thrawn all the time, which I'm gonna call him out because they literally anytime he loses, that was a planned loss.
can we get a
How is everything
trademark?
like,
Can we get a
yeah,
trademark on Do the Thrawn?
yeah, do the Thrawn. Did it right.
Oh,
That's amazing. All
Anyway,
right,
I'm
I'm
gonna give you
I'm
that.
I'm done. We'll get into negatives later. But Mark, iffies.
oh, I didn't write iffies. I just wrote positives and negatives.
I think
Oh, okay.
negative are iffies too. I
Yeah.
think.
Ah,
Well,
um,
a lot of mine are the same things you said, so I'll just do them briefly, I guess.
okay.
So one of my probably main ones was that it was a slow plot. And I stand by the whole season could have been the first half of what the season was. I've said that a few times, and I still think that's true. There were filler episodes, which I find negative because I can understand some people don't know the characters, but when there's only 8 episodes, I think there needs to be a lot more plot development for what we're given.
Yep.
And relating to that is leaving it so late to see Thrawn. Same
Mm.
thing with like the 8 episodes and the slow plot. And then my other negatives, the only ones I've written down are the ones that I keep bringing up is lightsabers still not acting truly like lightsabers, brackets, except for that one part in the last episode with the decapitation.
Yeah,
We
which
we don't want to see baseball bats, guys. Please. How much do we need to say it?
Mark, I got to tell you, this new Acolyte show is based around the Jedi and Sith. So,
Well, it better not have baseball bats, I'm telling you now.
so many baseball bats. So we're gonna
If
have
if it's all
so many.
baseball bats, I'm not gonna be happy at all.
Mm, mm.
And yeah, the other negative I kind of mentioned before when I was talking about my positives is that I wanted to see more of Balin and Shin
yeah,
because I think everyone can understand there was a lot of potential there, and we really would have liked to have seen what would have happened with them.
I mean, we started the season with them. They were the first characters we were introduced to in the season. So,
Yeah,
yeah, you build up that hype and then you kind of slowly build it through the first couple of episodes and then just you don't do anything with them. That's just what
yeah.
happens.
exactly.
Mm.
On to Jack.
Really, Mark?
Oh,
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
that's all I could think of. I'm sure I can add on to things you're about to
Or
say.
everything I'm gonna say, you're gonna be like, oh, maybe I agree, but maybe I don't. But okay. So to kickstart it off, Thrawn in this show started off, I thought, okay. Like he did the generic kind of, Thrawn stuff. However, I was watching it with my father too, and he's not a avid Star Wars kind of enthusiast like we do, and he doesn't know who Thrawn is. He obviously never read the books and stuff, but he was kind of like, is this guy meant to be like kind of like because he did when they kept like mentioning Thrawn, like the build up, and he's like, is this guy like meant to be scary and something? I'm like, well, he's meant to be scary with his mind, kind of thing. And then
That's a good way of
then
putting it.
we continued to watch it though. He got beat every time. Only won because of like basically plot like having to happen because he didn't actually do anything. Enoch did nothing. He was just like, This is an acceptable loss. And this is why I say the Disney Thrawn, because anytime he loses, it's planned to be a loss. I'm like, okay, well, that's just a bit silly because
I don't think it was they said planned to be a loss, did they?
no, I didn't say that's what they said, but they're writing him like that. So
Oh,
anytime he is
yeah, that's what you meant. Yeah.
Lost in Rebels or lost in here, it's always because like the only time he actually lost, and it wasn't like I meant that was when Ezra got him in the ship and took him obviously away. That's why he's like, I got beaten by like one Jedi before. However, every time in his show, he says, to Ahsoka at the end, you know, your fight was admirable. Ahsoka barely did anything apart from fight the henchman of Thrawn. Thrawn just dipped on a ship basically. I'm like, they didn't even fight. They didn't. It was nothing. Like Thrawn didn't do anything. He said, "Let's make a ground assault." There was no ground assault on the thing apart from in the actual castle thing because he got through. They got through the front door
What
by.
about when they attacked the town?
What do you mean?
Oh,
When they sent the troops to the turtle area, that was a grand
But that,
assault.
that no. When he said let's relay the ground assault, that was two TIE fighters that attacked them, not an actual ground assault.
I think Jack's referring to in episode 8
And
when
Mark,
they're coming in on the Howlers and Thrawn's like, "We shall prepare a ground assault,"
ground
and
assault.
then
Oh,
that's when
Yeah,
they start the bombardment of the laser
they
cannons.
didn't actually ground assault. Yeah, I know you're talking about way back when Ezra was there fighting with the Noti. No, I'm not
wait,
talking
what
about.
do you mean when they sent lasers at them? Well, that was in the last
Remember,
episode.
remember they were running into the temple in the last episode, and the
Hey,
Chimera
wait,
was shooting the turbo lasers down at them.
Was that the last episode?
Yeah,
I
but
thought that was like episode 6 or something.
no, but I reckon that's what Thrawn meant by ground assault, not necessarily sending troops down there. I think
he
it
meant
was.
troops in the actual castle. However, the way he said it, like, the Jedi ships, we assume that it's been shot down here. Let's, get them before they come into the house, to the castle, but they still go into the car. I
Hmm.
was like, his whole plan was flawed, so basic. Any Imperial warlord, even Moff Gideon, almost in the Mandalorian, almost did greater, smarter plays by cloning himself and making these suit. You know what I mean? Like Thrawn so far has done nothing that actually resonates with being like a scary threat right now, and that's what I'm being very annoyed by. You know what it's reminding me of? How Kang was portrayed in Ant-Man. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yes.
kind of like you're meant to be building up this kind of next Avengers level threat,
Yes.
and it was so easily beaten, but also kind of scary in some bits, but not really dived into. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Great comparison. Because I remember in Ant-Man and the Wasp or Quantumania, for like the
Mm,
first hour, they kept referring to as him. And it was
mm.
like, oh my God, him? That's so scary. And then you obviously knew him from
Ants,
Loki. It's like, oh my God. And then
ants.
it was like, oh, he's just got killed by a couple of ants.
Not killed, but like lost all his tech by them, and then gets fisticuffed by bloody the wasp into some generator thing. Anyway, that's what I'm saying with Disney. I cannot. I'm really going to go on a rant about Disney because I think they really got to. That I really hope almost this is. Have you heard about what they're doing with This is a bit of a pop culture reference, but they apparently cancelled Daredevil and rewriting everything.
Yes. Well, yeah, they did. Yep.
Basically, they need to do this with Star Wars stuff. They need to go back to the ground roots of almost. Okay, I love Star Wars content, but I would almost prefer quality over quantity. And I
I
think
think
this is
everyone
where
would.
because this Ahsoka show could have been perfect. It could have been a movie, right? It could have been even a trilogy of Heir to the Empire trilogy. However, they almost go the cheap way of just producing content that becomes half done and kind of like half cooked. It's like a half
Mm,
cooked, like they haven't cooked for long enough. You know what I mean? Dave
yep.
Filoni cooked longer, mate. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because there's so many elements of the show which could be really good, but then it just falls flat on its face, and it's almost like a joke to me because
Then you get back in the kitchen and put it back in the oven.
yeah, put it back in a little bit longer, because in my opinion, nothing against the actors, of course, but I thought Ahsoka was honestly one of the most boring characters to watch in this show. It was her show, and she was really kind of tedious and tiresome to watch on screen. I know you're gonna say she's like what's it called, like wise and kind of but even after that bit where she came back from the world between worlds, she was happy, right? At that last bit of that episode, she was a completely revitalized Ahsoka, and
Yeah.
then this episode she goes back to being depressed about Sabine and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, she was like, oh, why she make that choice and kind of thing, Again, I'm like, really? I remember that episode only saw her at the start and then nothing else after that for that whole
Oh, yeah,
episode.
episode 6. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just like, like, and even Sabine, I thought she was the most blandly written character, the most, oh yeah, let's just, have, you know what, this show should have been called the Book of Sabine, because it reminded me a lot of Boba Fett, and it reminded me a lot of just poorly written characters. The action scenes without lightsabers I thought was real just choppy. Like, the whole show was basically about Sabine for no reason. It was so weird. It almost would have benefited from being called Rebels. I know it didn't have all the rebels, but because it didn't even, it barely focused on Ahsoka, and when it did, it was almost like the most boring parts of it,
I
like the Boba.
I have thought about that almost the whole time the show's been running. I think it should have just been called Rebels
I know it doesn't have
or
all the rebels,
something that refers to the Rebels.
like a chapter from Rebels, like, or something like that. Because honestly, every time Ahsoka was on screen, I was almost like, ooh, like bored. Like, I'm like, here we go. We're gonna have to go with a long expositional dialogue, and she's gonna slow arm cross talk to Sabine about how she's, made them wrong mistakes and everything. And I'm just like, wow, she does a lot of talking and a lot of not much stuff, and she does those trailer poses every 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, every time she fights, it's almost like she's trying to trailer pose, and I'm just like, that's not Ahsoka. She gets the job done. She doesn't. She doesn't like to mess around. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
We see you, Cooper.
Yeah.
I feel like the show after all the episodes kind of boiled me a little bit, because it has the most potential. It has the most potential, and I feel like a lot of the decisions they made are iffy on my part, and that's why I'm saying these all sound very negative. However, they're more iffy to negative rather than iffy to positive, and
You know
that's why.
what
Yeah,
you were just saying there about it had such a good potential takes me back to one of our first episodes for this podcast. I think one of the topics was which show has the greatest potential.
yeah, that's true. And I said, guess what I said?
Yeah, I think you said Ahsoka, didn't you?
You've been
You
spot
guys,
on with your.
guys
We got to go back and revisit that at the end of the
You guys
end of the
said,
year.
guess
Yeah.
what? I remember what you guys said, and I laughed, and I was like, you know what? I reckon it would be one of the worst ones. And guess what it was? Mando season 3.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, I guarantee it's just gonna flop for some reason. I had a feeling, and yeah,
No, we got to revisit that at the end of the year.
oh, that's
Yeah,
unreal. But
definitely.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're almost too scared to do what Ryan Johnson did with episode 8, trying to like make something unique and different. So they've just been playing it so safe, but it's so basic and bland. Like, I feel like this show just really struggled by just being creative. You know what I mean? Because the Rebels was really creative. It introduced the world between worlds and also explored it a lot more and greater than this show. When this show was meant to almost initially, it was rumored that it was going to be focused around that as the main plot device. Like, Thrawn wanting to use the world between worlds to revitalize the Emperor Palpatine and the Empire. Like, that would have almost been better. Like, I know it's crazy, like, it's not really time travel, but it would have been a crazy implication, right? Instead, it was just like how do you describe this show? It was just a random go to this planet. Oh, they went to that planet. It took them ages to get to that planet. Oh, and then the bad guys left that planet, and now the good guys are still left on that planet. Like, it's such a basic, really poorly like developed storyline, and I thought the acting was actually kind of more mid to bad than I thought good. Apart from Balin and Shin, I thought they actually portray really well. Anakin, I thought Hayden did really well. Hu Yang, I thought was unreal actually as a robot. I thought
Yeah,
he had good
canon.
character depth as like a non-sentient. Oh, he's sentient, but non-human.
As a
alien.
droid.
Yeah, like as a droid, he had really good character development, right? And then even Hera. Look, wasn't a big fan of Hera. However, now that the season's done, I actually wanted to get more of the New Republic stuff. And this is saying something. You know why? You know why? That episode when they're in the Senate, when they're in their meeting on Coruscant, was actually a mix of like Andor vibes. And I know I said I wanted like not Andor vibes in non-Andor show, but it actually gave you the most like plot progression of the whole galaxy. When
World building.
this one feel like it did nothing. Feel like it barely world built. All it did was get thrown back into the main galaxy. I'm like,
On
like
that point,
yeah,
I wasn't really wanting to see much of that Senate stuff, but then, like you said, after that scene,
that
I feel like if
episode.
they could have done it, I'm gonna say in an Andor way, in the respect that they showed it, but it didn't take away from what Andor was doing. Because
Mm,
I was feeling like throughout the show, if we saw more of this Senate stuff, we're not gonna see anything about Ahsoka and the other
yeah,
galaxy, and I thought that was an issue. But if they took all the filler out and replaced it with that sort of
yeah.
thing, then I think it would have been all right.
So you could have had two sides of the story. One with like the politics sides of what to do in preparation for Thrawn, how naive the galaxy is, and then having Thrawn come. And I think this is what they needed to do. I know we got him in some scenes, and I know you would never happen in these Disney properties because you can't have a villain as the main protagonist or any like not main protagonist, but main character you're following. Imagine if we actually had main perspective of Thrawn, and the show was called Thrawn, right?
That would have been cool.
And you had because honestly, Ahsoka and all the Rebels crew almost felt more side characters than it's almost like you couldn't give a title to Ahsoka because Ahsoka was basically just a plot device. You know what I mean? Like in the end, Sabine was the one that basically brought Thrawn back. Ahsoka barely didn't actually influence. If you think about it, Ahsoka really didn't do anything. She didn't affect the storyline whatsoever because Sabine was the one that and she only recruited Sabine, and Sabine was the one that basically brought Thrawn back and everything. If you think about it like that,
I maybe, but
I
like
only just
I
thought
feel like
that
we
then.
spoke about this before. I mean, yeah, maybe she didn't impact the story that much, but the story pretty much was about her and her journey.
I think it's
And
about Sabine's journey. That's what I'm saying, and that's
no,
why
no, I don't disagree with you. I think that in terms of especially the middle of the series, like
five.
3, 4, 5, that's like big time Ahsoka. That's Ahsoka's moment.
But then, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I feel like this show almost had different pathways that they were like they introduced, but also didn't go too much into. Like they kind of started it on each kind of side, even with the Sabine being force sensitive. That was like a plot. That was like a side plot, but became such a major thing at the end. Like, but it's just random stuff like that. I thought they need to just have a singular focus thing, and I thought if they maybe focused it on Thrawn and had these guys as kind of the side characters, and we focus on the political side and Thrawn's side, it would have been crazy to see that kind of contrast. And I thought that would almost be how I would have written the show, to be honest, actually, now that I think of it. I would have had more of like that kind of aspect, and then the movie would build into Ahsoka and the good guys taking out Thrawn. You know what I mean? So vice versa. Have Thrawn be kind of like who you follow now, and then after you have Ahsoka and them kind of take out Thrawn. I
We
think
need to
that's
get
my
you in a writer's room.
yeah, like I don't know. I just think it could be very different. We've had so much repetitive stuff from Star Wars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think they had the opportunity to be different with this, and they just didn't. And that's where I'm criticizing them on.
Okay.
I think, but yeah, that's my overall negatives and
Fair
issues.
enough.
Very good. I was kind of gonna go with my negatives, but like I don't need to because you pretty much just summarized them perfectly. The other thing I was gonna say is that, and Mark touched on it earlier, there's just too many unanswered questions. I made a whole list about like pretty much just the ones I could think of off the top of my head, but I don't think we need to share that because I think everyone shares the same sort of opinions.
Mm,
But I do want to get your guys' opinions about what your favorite and least favorite episodes were in the season.
yeah, this is exciting.
Who's
Um,
going first?
Go,
Mark, you can
Mark.
go first.
I thought you would, but that's all right. I can go first. So
Oh,
I think you guys are going to know which is my favorite, and I think most people for who watch the show would agree. Episode 5, Shadow Warrior, the one where we saw a lot of Anakin and World Between Worlds and a lot of the Clone Wars sort of things. Seeing Anakin was of course amazing, but seeing him back in the fight was something else, I would say. I loved just the Clone Wars live action, seeing it in live action, and this is definitely a cameo, going back to the cameo thing, but with Captain Rex, it was nice that we just got to see him. And yeah, I can't say much else, so I'm sure I can add on to you guys. Like it was just the Clone Wars aspects, I think, is what really made it my favorite episode.
What
Which is
was
something that's saying something really, isn't it? Because it didn't
mm,
have a whole lot to do with the greater plot.
oh yeah,
mm.
100%.
What was your least favorite episode?
Mm,
My least favorite episode is episode 3, called Time to Fly. It
yeah,
was in my opinion, the culmination of filler. It
yeah.
was still pretty entertaining. I'm pretty sure I rated it a 7 out of 10, but I was left wanting in terms of plot development. All
Okay.
we really saw him, I think, from memory, was dogfighting.
Mm.
Pretty much, that was a very big portion of the episode, and I was getting a bit bored by the end.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna. I want to go next because mine's
Yeah.
gonna be hot takes. Yeah. You guys actually think I think you guys are gonna assume two different things for me, but I've changed. I've after the season review, my favorite episode is episode 4, the one with Balin and Ahsoka's fight.
Fallen Jedi, interesting.
I'm touching on that one later.
Here we go. This is my favorite episode. Primarily, one, music. Best in the show, in my opinion, was in that episode. We had Sabine's theme, we had Ahsoka's theme, we had Balin's theme, we had the fight theme between them. We had Anakin's Imperial March at the end of when he showed up, which made it interesting. I thought, in my opinion, like leading to something greater. It had my favorite fight scenes. It had the most action. It also had, I think, the fastest pace of all the episodes. It didn't really keep me, it kept me interested the whole time. It was pretty speedy. And I really didn't like the pacing of this show, thus being my favorite episode. I have rewatched that fight scene a lot. Balin's theme, I thought that was the pivotal fight, in my opinion. I didn't like the fight that Balin and Ahsoka did later. I don't like it at all. Don't like it at all. Anyway, that was my favorite episode. Title is also goated title, because it means also kind of Balin, and it also kind of means Ahsoka. It also kind of means Anakin. It kind of means all of them in a way, because she's a fallen Jedi, but kind of like, she's not a Jedi. Balin's not also a Jedi, and Anakin, like literally, like was a fallen Jedi, like he became evil. Yeah, so it's like I thought it had a lot of meanings, and
Yep.
So that's my favorite episode.
I was hoping no one would mention almost everything you just said, because I was gonna say it later, but it's all right. I'll go over it again later.
That's all right. Oh, good. And my least favorite initially, if you go off the ratings and stuff, it I don't know, but it's not actually episode 3. It's actually episode 7.
What? No, you hated 6.
Which one was 6?
That was the one where Ahsoka was barely in it. It was the one where they start in the hyperspace lane, and then it's Sabine on the path to go find Ezra.
No, true. But I hated 7 because it was the penultimate, and it did nothing to progress the story from what it did from. No, 6 was introducing Thrawn.
Yeah, you hated it.
No, I like Thrawn still. I just said I didn't like Sabine bits, and it was mainly Sabine. No,
you said the episode was only slightly better than episode 3.
Yeah, I did, but I'm so surprised because I ragged on 7 the most, actually. I said it was the worst because it didn't progress the story. It was a filler for a second. It was a filler for the second last episode of the season. It did weird things with Ezra not using a lightsaber. The fight scene was in my opinion. The stormtroopers were useless.
Oh yeah.
Ron lost all the time, like lost that whole battle, and said basically, "Yeah, that was planned. It's not our priority. Our priority is getting out of the thing." Yeah, see my face? Exactly.
I forgot that was your reaction.
I can't believe you're surprised by this. I said I hated Sabine in the other one, but I didn't hate the episode entirely. I just ragged on Sabine. No, episode 7 was the most unnecessary episode ever. It also had the fight scene between Balin and Ahsoka, didn't it? And I thought that was not needed. And I hated how Balin said, "You can't beat me." And Ahsoka basically agreed to it. I'm like, that makes no sense. We haven't got any context of what Balin has done in his past, apart from training in the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka's battled Vader one-on-one for a long time and survived. Took out Maul as a kid. I was like, there's no way. I was like, that episode was so unnecessary. The weird noties throwing rocks and it's just no, I can't. That episode was not needed. You could have just skipped that episode, have episode 6, go straight into the last one, and would have done the same thing.
I feel like you can say that about a lot of the show. If you took it out and squashed it down.
But being the second last episode of a series needs to have some greater impact to the story. It literally ended the same as how it started.
Yeah, it's true.
Fair enough.
Fight scenes, the lighting looked weird. Didn't like it. CGI worse than the show was that episode. So overall, that episode was easily my most hated. Yep.
Wow. Okay. I feel like that could have been its own podcast.
Episode 7 sucks.
It was its own podcast.
Yeah, it was. It was. Good point. Go watch it. All right. I'm gonna take similar. My favorite episode was Shadow Warrior, episode 5. I mean, there's no complaints there, I'm assuming. No.
I just thought. I did actually want to say, however, Shadow Warrior would have been number 1 if they actually had greater emphasis on the background of Clone Wars and stuff, not just kind of like showing, oh yeah, this is the Mandalorian War live action. It would have been interesting to actually see the setting rather than Dust Storm and kind of. I thought the way they were going with that, they need to almost more emphasize on the flashbacks rather than just being like a 10-minute segment almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it was.
okay.
It had plot relevance to obviously the lesson he was trying to teach her. However, I don't think it leaned into it enough in a way. I think that would have made it 100% better because I really didn't like the Hera searching with Jason bit on that episode and how it kept cutting away. Every time it cut away, I was triggered. Remember when we watched it
You
live?
were, yes.
Yeah, and it took
Yeah.
away from what it was trying to say in the Ahsoka bit.
See, I didn't hate that. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good combination of storylines in episode 5. But my least favorite episode was the finale. I really
I
didn't
knew
like
you
it.
would say that.
It was my lowest ranked episode. I thought it was very weak as a finale. I don't think it gave a very satisfying conclusion. And yeah, I think that's all I need to say about it.
That's where, yeah, I was like, it's a bad finale. However, it's technically leading into another season or something. So technically,
Yeah.
it's not a series as its own. If that was the whole series finale, whoa, that would be my worst too. Then, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but I mean, like I compare it to like a series like Loki, which I know isn't Star Wars, but it's Marvel. That finale, even though it was completely different, it was the best episode of the season by far. And I thought it
Yeah,
closed a lot of doors, but it also opened a lot of doors. And it's like, okay, so it's done. It did what yeah, I don't know. It did what it needed to, and it did it well. So Ahsoka didn't do that for me. So
Fair enough.
Better ending, to be honest.
what Moon Knight? That's for pop culture. That's for pop culture.
I'm gonna make a video about Moon Knight one day.
Okay, all right. And do we want to do favorite character, least favorite character, or is that not really? Yeah?
Now I want to do it.
Okay, all right. Mark, do you want to start?
Yeah, all right. I think I've made it pretty obvious already, but I think I'm going to say Balin because he had, and I'm still a bit annoyed with it, but he had the greatest potential.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was fantastic. He was working for the villains, but there's clearly something going on behind the scenes, which we unfortunately never found out. I felt like his dynamic with Shin was very Jedi-like, even though the dark side uses. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I would say Shin is.
I think that might be why she was very intrigued and kept asking about the Jedi.
Yep.
All right, cool. And then this is what I was saying before when I was gonna mention episode 4, the aptly named Fallen Jedi, because I was gonna say as well, like you said, Jack, that it kind of means like Balin and Ahsoka as well.
Yeah.
And also that's why I wanted to bring him up because I feel like episode 4 was the best episode that Balin was in, if that makes sense. Like that,
Yeah.
the whole like the dialogue bits in particular, I think is what really made it such a great episode for him. And Ray Stevenson is just such a powerful actor, and I think everyone would agree with that from what we've seen. We're doing least favorite character as
Yeah,
well.
do it. I'm interested.
So I want to make it very clear. I don't really have a least favorite character. So what I think I'm going to do is say the one I didn't connect with the most. And I'm not sure what Cooper will think of this, but I'm going to say Morgan Elspeth. Okay. She started off pretty well, I'd say. But Cooper, he would have to agree with this. She basically did nothing for the rest of the show. And then when she finally got her development at the end, she was just killed.
Oh, interesting.
I hate you, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm joking. I'll take that back.
But yeah, I think she was kind of just like stood in the back when Thrawn was doing his thing throughout most of the once Thrawn had appeared. And yeah. I think that's what I'm gonna say about her.
Mine's most obvious. Balin. Yeah. Favorite. So he's just everything Mark said, plus epic Count Dooku vibes from him and his look and stuff. He just looks like an absolute beast. So Balin and everything Mark said, I don't have to go over it again. Least favorite, 100% Sabine. Sabine and Ahsoka probably almost tied bottom, but Sabine worse. So Sabine worse. Yep.
What?
Why are you surprised? I literally, no offense, I don't care what they said in that one line in the Rebels Trials of the Darksaber episode. I don't think she should be force sensitive. Being a Jedi is a rare thing that hasn't happened at all, really, and now it's happened basically twice in 2 different shows with Grogu and now Sabine. I don't like, no offense to the actress, I didn't like her portrayal. That's the only character I can't look at and be like, yeah, that's Sabine. I just see her as a completely different Sabine.
That's so funny. I disagree on almost everything you just said about that.
Yeah, that's why it's opinionated.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm
I
glad you
also
have this opinion.
really don't appreciate how we focus so much of our time on Sabine in the show that really did not need to focus that much on Sabine. I don't think she was ever a character we're like, yeah, we want more screen time. I don't know. Like, she was cool in Rebels, but I never really, I actually preferred Kane and Ezra, their kind of, even Callus and stuff. I preferred all that kind of stuff from that show. But I just think she's a bland emotions, horrible line delivery, especially the ones with Ezra. Absolutely atrocious in my opinion. But not. It sounds like I'm ragging on her, but she'll improve hopefully over time, and hopefully we get to see that because yeah, man, did not connect at all. So yeah, least favorite character easily.
Hey guys, it's Cooper. I'm really depressed right now.
Morgan and Sabine. He's just gone.
Sabine was my favorite character in the
Wow.
series.
No.
What a call.
She
Oh,
was
yuck.
by far and away the most accurate.
Take
Maybe
your
maybe
personal
Ezra,
feelings-
maybe
take your personal feelings aside.
personal feelings aside,
Initially, when she was
I'd still pick
casted,
Sabine.
wow, amazing. She looks amazing. That's what I remember, Mark. You remember.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember. That's
I
why.
said that because she looked like Sabine from Rebels.
I'm not talking about that, Cooper.
I'm confused then.
What are you
Ah,
doing?
no.
Get your head away from the camera.
Anyway, I thought Sabine was, first of all, perfectly cast. Not only
Oh,
does Natasha look like Sabine, but she
oh,
perfectly acts the part as well. The
oh.
only thing I think is a bit off is the voice. But again, if you
Definitely
think
agree
of it
with
as a
looks.
maturity,
Slightly agree with portrayal. The voice, I don't know. I didn't really have a thought about the voice. Maybe it's just been maybe it's been too long since I watched Rebels,
okay.
but I don't really.
You
Continue.
you look like, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but you look like a rat. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I did have on my least favorite character. Don't know, everyone was pretty good, but as a joke, I put Senator Ziono.
see, that's why I said I want to be very clear. I didn't really have one that I
Yeah,
didn't
I had
like,
numerous bad characters.
and I was thinking about that senator as well. But that's
I
it's
thought he
meant
did
to
a
be
perfect
like that,
job because
so
he was
that's why I
meant
didn't write him.
to.
I would probably say of the main characters, Hera was probably the one she was great in the first couple of episodes, but then the second half of the season, I just
Yeah.
didn't really connect with her. So yeah,
Guess who my third favorite character in the show is?
Hera.
Hu Yang.
Oh yeah. I that's a
Yeah.
valid. Yep,
Great character in the show, I reckon.
he's a great character.
Unreal in the show.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Last thing I want to chat about before we head off because we're been at this for a while. I want your overall ranking for the season. It can be out of 10. It could be a grade. I don't mind whatever you choose. Mark?
Well, yeah, I'll go first, but I'm gonna give just the added up of all the scores I gave
Yeah.
it, and then I might give it another score by the end of the podcast if I feel it's necessary. But by adding our scores out of 80, I had 65.2, and that is equivalent to 81.5%, which when I look at it, I feel like it might be a bit high.
Mm.
So that's why I'm saying I might have to give it a bit of revision by the end of this episode. So I'll have a think about that.
Okay.
But I'd probably give it closer to a 70. So.
Okay. All right. Jack?
5. 50.
Overall.
Yep.
Wow.
A passing grade.
Average. Average.
My God. You change your mind so much.
Because you know what? Over time, even over a day, I can't understand how you look at this like holistically. We nitpick a lot on it. Those nitpicks add up. You can't just nitpick something and be like, oh, there's a lot of nitpicks. Let's just give this a 7 to 8 out of 10. Like, I dislike so much parts of this. The 5 that I like is everything I mentioned. Balin, cinematography, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, hang on. Give me 1 second.
Oh,
Because I'm curious to get your opinion now and
Okay,
see
yeah.
if your numbers back this up. Because
No, it doesn't.
long time ago in a galaxy very close to us,
You
We
can't
did.
do the episode ratings because I said it's going to
No,
change when it's
no,
done.
no, 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 no. I'm not. Don't worry. Just it's
I
okay.
think I would overall probably give it between a 65% and a 70%.
Oh no, where did I put it? Hang on, I gotta find it again. I got my notebook. It's just Rogue One. Remember when we did the movie reviews? Here we go. Jack,
Yes.
you gave The Force Awakens a 5.8. Is The Force Awakens better than this?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, that says everything I
Honestly,
need to know about you.
You know what? No, you know why? Because even though it was a rehash of A New Hope, at least it made sense from start to finish. This also, however, it will change with Ahsoka if there is another season. Because you have to take all the seasons together. You know what I mean? Because this technically left it on a cliffhanger. It's not even a finished show. How can you be like, this show is better than a finished movie? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, for example, if that's Rebels done right, Rebels all together is that like Rebels from season 1 to 4 is all better than the sequel trilogy, and you know what I mean.
Hmm.
But like season 1 of Rebels alone, I thought was pretty bad.
Yeah, not great.
You know what I mean? See, that's what I'm saying, Cooper. You have to, I'm not going to give it an 8. It's not even finished. If it was a limited series,
No,
done.
okay, but as
Is
far
your
as we
feedback
know, it's
is your
finished.
feedback to put it
Besides
back in the
movie.
oven?
Yeah, put it back in the oven. Let it cook longer.
Was it a bit undercooked? Was it raw?
I wouldn't say it's raw. It was just a bit chewy. Chewy. More chewy than I wanted.
Okay, great analogy. I might continue on with that. I feel like my opinion of it is that it's been cooked, but it's been sitting out for a while, so it's kind of getting a bit cold.
Yeah,
So-
a bit cold.
I gave it a 7 out of 10 overall. And
That's
I
not
don't
even
know why on my notes I wrote this like a couple days ago. I really just started ragging on Mando season 3 for some reason. I don't know
Yeah,
why. I just
bad.
I don't like Mando season 3. Anyway,
Pretty bad.
that's not about. Yeah, so I give it a 7 out of 10. Give it a B. If we're doing letter grades.
Yeah, wouldn't it be like yeah, mine will be a C.
So yours would
See,
be
we're doing
chewy.
letters.
You would be chewy. I would be sitting out for a while. Mark, what's yours?
For what letters?
No. Like our analogy for food. So Jack's
I
was
would
chewy.
say it needs to definitely go back in the oven.
Back in the
It's
oven.
still a little pink. It needs to brown up a bit.
Okay.
It's
All right.
pink. That's what we're
Yeah.
saying.
All right. You know what? That's a pretty good analogy, I think.
Letter grade probably. I can't decide between C plus or B minus.
Well, decide.
B minus.
Cool. Okay.
Good.
All right.
That makes
Well,
sense.
there you go. That's our very long-winded Ahsoka review of the season. We hope you enjoyed. Please, if you want a more in-depth breakdown about what happened, go check out the actual podcasts. They're available on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I learned that the other week. We're pretty much everywhere now, which is awesome. But yeah,
Cooper, have Jack and I with our least favorite characters ruined your birthday?
no, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
But very, very close. Very close.
Ooh.
Later today, I'll make
That is the first time I've been so upset with one of your opinions that I've walked off.
this last Jedi.
Ooh, actually, I think that is the first time you walked off.
Last Jedi?
And
No,
was
you
as a
walked
result
off
of
in
something.
Last Jedi.
He's walked off. He's called a cinematic masterpiece. I'll never
Yeah,
let that
Jack walked off. I haven't walked off yet.
Yeah, well, coming soon.
Everyone who
Next
watches
week.
on YouTube, write in the comments, "Happy birthday, Cooper."
No,
Yep.
don't.
Yeah,
Just
show
spam
your
Do what
love.
you want. Just the one thing you have to do is like the video and subscribe.
Yeah.
Because we are
Yeah.
very close to 100 subs.
10
If we get to
subs off
100
100,
subs,
guys.
Yeah, if we can get to 100 subs by the end of the year, that'd be nuts. So, yeah, I think that's it. You guys got any last comments to make?
Oh,
No?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Thank
Birthday.
you. Thank you. All right. We'll catch you next week. I think next week, what do you want to do next week? Do you want to do actually we'll chat about this later.
well, yeah. We don't mention it. Don't mention it.
Yeah, no, okay. We'll chat it later. Anyway,
All right.
we'll see you next week. Bye guys.
See you later.
Bye-bye.